I'm going to write a show for us and put it on right here in Seaport. Why, it'll be the most up-to-date thing these hicks around here have ever seen. Opening night, we'll have Max Gordon, Sam Harris, Lee Schubert down to give us the once-over. How about it, kid? We'll get every kid in this town on our side, and we'll start right now. What do you say? Right? Come on, kids, let's go!
They treat us like they thought we were a menace to the nation. And that ain't right.
No, that ain't right. They think of us as infants, and that's plain humiliation. And that ain't right. No, it ain't polite. We've got to face our destiny, the life for which we're fated. We've had our fill of nurseries, and now we've graduated.
Abe Lincoln had the right idea with his emancipation. And just like Abe, we've got to make a great big proclamation. We'll do it right. Yeah. What's more, this very night. Very night. Listen, from tonight our future will be bright. He's right. From tonight our future will be very, very bright.
We are babes in armor. They laugh at babes in arms, but we'll be laughing far more on city streets and farms. They'll hear a rising war cry. Youth will arrive, let them know you're alive. Make it your cry. They call us babes in arms. They think they must direct us. And make them all respect us. Why have we got our arms? Our sight for fight for. Play days done, we've a place in the sun we must fight for. So babes in arms, to arms! To arms! To arms, babes in arms!
We don't want to go to county farm.
No! Come on, you babes in arms, stand up for your rights.
We're coming! We're coming!
Come on, you sons and daughters, we gotta fight!
We're coming! We're coming!
George Washington was just a kid when he chopped down that tree. But if they locked him up for that, where'd this country be? We gotta stand.
We gotta stand!
We gotta stand right up.
We gotta stand right up!
We gotta stand right up and tell them that we're right.
Yeah, we gotta fight! Yeah, we gotta fight! 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 What do we cheer for? What are we here for? Why were we born? What do we cry for? What do we die for? Why do we mourn? Life doesn't stop. Life doesn't wait. It goes on. We've got to step. We've got to skate into the dawn. It's a new day.
Our flags unfurled. Come on, let's tell it to the world.
We'll hear a rising war cry. Youth will arrive, let them know you're alive. Make it your cry. They call us babes in arms. A basket, who wants your yellow basket? They think they must direct us. Babes in arms are going up, going up, going, going up. But if we're babes in arms, going around the mulberry bush, who wants to go around the mulberry bush? We'll make them all respect us. Hooray, hooray, it's Emancipation Day. Why have we got our arms? What have we got our sight for? Way day and sun, face in the sun, we must fight for. So babes in arms,
Yes.
Ooh. Okay. Hi everyone, thank you for another edition of the Garland Gab. We are now picking up on Judy's filmography after our lengthy three-part Wizards of Oz discussion that you all may have seen. And this month we are discussing Judy's other 1939 film, Babes in Arms, which we will be discussing why is just as an important film as The Wizard of Oz for Judy's career at that point. Okay, but before we go on to that, we'd like to introduce two very special guests. So, joining us for the first time is Teddy Cuthbert, is that right? How you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay, Teddy is 17 years old from Northumberland, England. He's currently keeping himself busy by recording for his YouTube channel and studying for A-levels in art, theatre and English literature. Good subjects. He discovered the endless delight that Judy has to offer during the first lockdown in April 2020 and has felt eternally connected to her ever since. Teddy has a strong fascination with any music, films and clothing from the 1920s and 30s, and it was almost entirely thanks to watching 1930s Judy films that he now has this obsession. Everyone, welcome Teddy.
Yay!
Thank
And
you.
I will put a link to your YouTube channel in the description because Teddy has got a lovely singing voice, completely 1930s throwback, and I've just privately compared him to Judy and the fact that he's a young lad, he's got a very adult voice. And I love the tone of his voice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we're also welcoming back Benn Heath, who was last on our podcast over a year ago on our What a Judy podcast. So Ben is 32 and currently living in London. You're originally from up north, aren't you, Ben?
I am, yes. I'm from the Lincolnshire area, yeah.
Sort of up north.
Ish.
He's been a fan of Judy since he was age 5. He has guest appeared on this podcast and others where he does, what he loves to do the most in the world, talk about Judy. Everyone, we welcome back Benn Heath.
Yay!
Thank you.
And also returning as always are 3 Garland Gabbers, Connor, Carly and myself.
Hi.
Okay, before we start with the history of Babes in Arms, I just want to open it up straight away just for your overall opinions, feelings about this film. So who would like to start?
Teddy or Ben, go first. You're the guests.
Yeah, Teddy or Ben. Actually, Teddy, you're the same age Judy was during this film. So that's
I've never even
we've all been that age as well. Long
Yeah.
time ago for him. What are your opinions?
Well, I totally agree with what you're saying, how it is equally as important as The Wizard of Oz for Judy's career, and obviously it contributed to a award that she won for the two. And I just think it's such a kind of, in all senses of the word, it's a really classic kind of film. It's I don't know, it just includes everything that made 1939 Judy, and I just love it. I love it.
Okay. Ben?
Well, it really was like the beginning of Judy Garland becoming Judy Garland as a household name. Combined with the release of The Wizard of Oz in that year, it shot her into the stratosphere. And it was the start of, a really good working relationship for other people as well. It was the birth of Arthur Freed musicals. It was the birth of the Mickey and Judy kind of backyard musicals that we would get as well. As a starting formula, I would say out of the 4 main ones, it's not my favorite by any stretch. But as a starting point and working with that formula that they would continue to, it's a nice movie. It's very cute.
Carly and Connor.
You go, Carly.
Sure. Well, it's certainly, it's not one of my personal favorites. It's one that I probably watch the least out of one of them, out of all of her films. But what I like about it is that as Ben said, it was the birth of that, let's put on a show, and it's cool. It's nice to see that, where that is coming from and how it evolves over the next few years for Mickey and Judy. And it is a very sweet film. Of course, I mean, as we'll get into it very soon, there are a few little parts about it, but it is an overall enjoyable watch. It's gentle. It's, it's something that it is an overall feel good film. And it was the birth of Arthur Freed. And there's so many all the way through. When you watch it, nearly every musical number is familiar to you. If you're an MGM musical fan, you've heard these songs before. And it's fun to see.
I love that you called it a gentle film. That's such a perfect adjective for it. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just echo everybody so far. Fact that her Oscar was in part for Babes in Arms. It's the birth of Judy Garland, the superstar. It's the first of the 4 Mickey and Judy backyard musicals. I agree, it's not probably my favorite one. I think Girl Crazy is my favorite one. But I mean, I watched it again, obviously, the other night. Are you as well, Ben?
Yeah, I'm Team Girl Crazy.
Yeah, Team Girl Crazy. And Sarah. But yeah, when I watched it in full the other night as well, like, I obviously enjoyed it, and we'll be getting into a few things or whatever, but Judy is just the standout in it.
Yeah, again, I have to echo. It's no secret that I love the Mickey and Judy musicals. They are my guilty pleasure. Mickey and Judy fan, right here on my t-shirt.
You've got nothing to be guilty of.
I love Babes in Arms. Again, it's not my favourite of the 4. It actually alternates depending on what mood I'm in. Girl Crazy is my favourite, and then Strike Up the Band. Sorry, Connor. And 2 main films sort of like, depends what mood I'm in, they chop and change, probably equal. But again, like a lot of the Mickey Judy films, and the reason why I love Strike Up the Band, it's sentimental to me. It was first shown, I first saw it in 1989. It was 20 years since Judy's death. It was also the 50th anniversary of Oz. It was a big Judy year. I was 8, and I remember it vividly. They were showing all sorts. It's the first time I saw Presenting on Mars, first time I saw the pirate, Carly. And I saw quite a few, and then Babes in Arms was advertised at the end of the pirate to come on. The things I remember are silly. To come on a week later, I was so excited because at this point I'd seen Strike Up the Band and Babes on Broadway only out of the Mickey Judy films. So I was so excited. But yeah, I mean, I've got no tears. I've already mentioned it, that it's so important because this was released after Oz. This actually did better at the box office than Oz. It contributed to Judy's Oscar. She placed her hands and feet outside Grauman's Chinese at the premiere of Babes in Arms, responsible for coming into the top 10 box office stars. Mickey was nominated for a Best Actor Oscar. Crazy. When Judy never was for MGM musicals. And it was Arthur Freed's first full musical. He'd been an uncredited associate producer on Oz, as we've discussed. This started the golden age of the MGM musical, and it was also Busby Berkeley's first MGM musical. Whatever you think of Busby Berkeley, he's had a successful career at Warner Brothers. We know Judy wasn't his biggest fan, but I think the relationship was a little bit better on Babes in Arms. And it also launched the Backyard musical. But so I'm just going to go a little bit into the history. Okay, so Babes in Arms was first a Broadway musical in 1937. It only ran for 289 performances between April and December. I think maybe some of the subjects might have been a bit too much for the 1937 audience. It had a Rodgers and Hart score. I love Rodgers and Hart, so I'm gutted they didn't all make it into the film. But only 2 full songs and an instrumental made the final film. Lady is a Tramp, the instrumental version, made it as a leitmotif to Baby Rosalie, so that's her theme tune. And the title song, Babes in Arms and Where or When. But 2 of the deleted songs, I Wish I Were in Love Again and Johnny One Note, did make it into words and music. One is a duet with Mickey and Judy, and one is a Judy solo. The original production delved more with adult themes such as politics and racism. In fact, the Nicholas brothers, who I love, played 2 brothers who were the subject to racism. So, anything anyone wants to say about the history?
Lorna did the revival of the stage musical in England.
She did.
Yeah.
In Chichester.
That I can never say that, so thank you.
Where?
Chichester.
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 Say it again.
Chichester. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was waffling there, but is there anything anyone wants to say, or do you want me to move it along?
I just think it's interesting what you say about Busby Berkeley and Judy's relationship. I personally, I feel like you can tell that they got along a bit better in Babes in Arms. There's not this kind of uncomfortable stiffness or anything. And obviously, it's very hard to make Judy look stiff when she's such a natural. But you know, the whole thing about the eyes and whatever, I don't see that as much in Arms. So yeah, it contributes to the positivity of it, I think. Yeah.
I think a lot of his problems hadn't really manifested at this point either.
And plus he wasn't doing like those great big kaleidoscopes style numbers in this one either, you know, like the I Got Rhythm type thing.
Yeah, not too frenetic.
No.
Well, funny you said that, Teddy, because when I was watching Babes in Arms the other night, I thought the same thing about the eyes.
Yeah.
I thought, 'cause even though Judy naturally had big eyes, so I don't know why he wanted her to open them wider. You don't see it in Babes in Arms, it's more natural. You can see it in Girl Crazy. I feel you can see it in Lakonga as well. But I hate seeing it go ranting when some of today's audience see clips of these Judy films. This again was before a lot of Judy's problems had really like started to surface, and because she's got really wide eyes, they're like, oh, she's all speeded up, look at her eyes, and you're like, oh no, it's not like that.
She just had big massive eyes.
Yeah, like Liza.
Yeah, Liza's are even bigger.
Yeah, Liza's awesome. So anything else? Okay, so a little bit again, a lot of this I've just mentioned before, but a bit about the pre-production and the production. Arthur Freed was actually planning this film while working as associate producer on Oz. We've already mentioned it was his full film. Extra songs for the film, some were old, some were new, by Arthur Freed and Nace O'Hare Brown, Roger Edens, Harold Arlen and E.Y. Harburg. Many of these songs you will probably hear later in Singing in the Rain, as Carly just mentioned, you know them, and you will have heard them before, especially in the opening montage. Arthur Freed wrote Good Morning, Roger Edens did I Cry. No, he didn't do I Cry For You. I think I did have it noted and I forgot who wrote I Cry For You. I need to double check that. Roger Edens wrote the special material for My Daddy Was a Minstrel Man, and Harold Arlen and E.Y. Harburg wrote God's Country. We've already mentioned Busby Berkeley. Judy was still working on Oz while in pre-production for this, as always, and she did retakes on Oz while in production for this. There is a very big hint of this in the title number. I'm presuming most of you know what I'm talking about, which I'll mention when we get to the conclusion of the Babes in Arms number.
Oh, the up the ladder.
Yeah. If you don't know, just go, yeah. So, and first of the big Judy Mickey Backyard musicals. So, anything on that before we go to our scene by scene breakdown?
No.
Okay, so ready for our scene by scene breakdown, our favourite part. So we've got the title credits and the opening scenes, which is the montage. You've got Mickey's birth at the palace, setting the scene, the whole thing about Vaudeville being big, and then motion pictures coming in and then just spoiling everything. First thing I want to point out on the title credits is Judy's billing. Now at this point, Judy was still in retakes for the Wizard of Oz. So I mean, this was being put in post-production, so Wizard of Oz probably would have been finished. But Wizard of Oz wasn't released. She hadn't won a juvenile Oscar. She hadn't exploded yet, but she is given equal star billing above the title with Mickey. I do have a quote about that I'll read in a minute, but before that, does anyone want to comment on
that? This hasn't got much to do with anything, but I apologize if anyone sees us looking down because I've got this massive timeline of the whole thing. So that's what I'm looking at, if anyone's wondering. So sorry about that.
You're better than me. I have like a few little things scribbled here, and that's it.
I'm going through Hugh Fording's book.
I've got my notes and I've got a book. All right, I'll read the quote about the billing. We always pull this out for Judy's films.
Oh, I know. I just can't lift it up at the moment.
Okay, the source for this is a bit vague. It just says Contemporary Fan Magazine, but it didn't want John Fricke's book, so I'm presuming it's relatively accurate. Okay, it was Arthur Freed who insisted on having Judy co-starred, but Judy agreed with the studio. She didn't think she deserved it. After all, Mickey was #1 at the box office. She hadn't done enough to be co-stars with him, but Arthur put his foot down, said she deserved it, if only for working so hard. Said he wouldn't release the picture unless she was co-starred. He fought until he got her name beside Mickey's.
Wow.
Wow.
So it seems crazy that a name wouldn't have been billed next to Mickey's to me now, because in their 4 backyard musicals, it's always Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney in. So I thought that was interesting. Anyone else?
It did actually only dawn on me the other night when I watched it and I saw Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland, Ian. I was like, that's their first time above the title, isn't it? And you know, after all these years, it only dawned on me the other night.
Aye. But the other thing,
I was today years old when I've made this realization.
Yeah.
It's escaped me for the last 30 years.
I only realised it the other week. Well, they were built above the title in Thoroughbreds Don't Cry, but it wasn't so much a big star and things, you know.
Okay.
Sorry, you said something then, Teddy?
I was just going to say, hearing that quote, that's the first time I've heard that, and I find it quite heartbreaking that Judy herself didn't believe that she quite deserved it yet. Yeah, that's a sad thought, but little did she know she'd be top billed for the rest of her life, really.
Yeah. Considering how hard she had worked up to this point too, right? As was sort of mentioned in that quote, she had already been working for MGM since 1935. You know what I mean? So to have that many years behind you, yeah, you do deserve it, honey.
Yeah, I mean, when you think they rushed her into Thoroughbreds Don't Cry, and then everybody sang, and then, you know, it was just the film, really.
Yeah.
You've got to remember, these are the people that have championed her. The rest of her contemporaries and the rest of her so-called peers in this male-dominated kind of world, all they've ever told her is what was wrong with her.
Yeah.
And for us sensitive little Judy, you know, to be given a kind of a grace like that, she, you know, it's going to be a big deal to her.
Yes.
Because I mean, the film was mainly built around, well, it was built for both of them, but it was mainly Mickey's film. But nowadays, when you watch it, because and I love Mickey Rooney, but his kind of performance style and talents haven't aged as well.
Yeah.
It's just Judy Garland.
Yeah.
But my other thing about the credits is we do have the lovely Wicked Witch of the West, Margaret Hamilton, in this film. And I thought it was absolutely disgusting that she was not billed in the opening credits.
Yeah.
We have to wait till the final credits at the end.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on then to the opening scenes. Does anyone have anything they want to say about the opening montage? It's not Judy, but...
Well, yeah, I obviously loving, you might have heard from the introduction, loving anything that's kind of proper olden days, even like pre-Judy days. You know, I'm a big fan of, I probably listen to 1920s music more than any other music, and I'm a big fan of like the vaudeville kind of aesthetic. And so I think it was lovely that they got kind of the main person of this scene is Charles Winninger. And he was a proper, you know, he was right in that vaudeville time. So if there's anybody who kind of knows vaudeville, it's going to be him. And I also imagine I was just thinking about this today, I imagine that he could quite vividly remember that time when talking pictures were kind of a threat coming in from this kind of new technology. So like I say, if anybody truly knows that experience, it's going to be Charles Winninger, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the fun trivia, of course, is the footage of Mickey. The character Mickey is Mickey Rooney as a child.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely tell.
And he doesn't.
Yeah, it looks exactly like him.
Never changed. Right up until, you know, he was right up until the end of his life. He always looked like
he had a fourth birthday and then just stayed like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from a film called Broadway to Hollywood, wasn't it?
Yes.
I think it was his first MGM film. He'd been doing a lot of shorts and things, but yeah.
Still Joseph Ewell.
Junior.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of Charles Winninger.
No, I mean,
especially in Little Nelly Kelly.
Ugh.
I agree. I appreciate what you're saying. One thing I've got to say is, you know, the scene just before the publisher's office and Good Morning in the family home. You've got Mickey Moran, Molly, his sister, and what's Mickey's mum called in this?
Florence.
Florrie.
Florrie.
Florrie. I've just said Florrie. That's it. Sorry, this always kills me. This is my favourite line in the whole film. It says, "Where's Mickey?" And Molly, Bessie Jane, says, "He's at the music publishers. He wrote a song last night," and his dad has a little moan, and the mum says, "All kids go through that songwriting phase. I remember when you did." I just have the image of like just kids on the street corners around here, you know, going through the songwriting phase, getting arrested because I'm writing these songs. Sorry, just a little silly the way my mind works, but that line just kills me because I wish I went through my songwriting phase. I tried to, but I can't write songs, so you know I didn't.
I can relate to that. Yeah. I kind of, well, just watching those like birthday montage things, it totally reminded me of Judy, who got the same kind of treatment in Little Nelly Kelly, didn't she? She got that kind of montage where they're blowing out the candles and everything. Just a little connection there.
Anything else before we move on?
No.
Okay, so the next section, we've got Judy and Mickey's introduction with the Good Morning number, with the whole scene in the publishers, and then that's followed by the scene under the tree with the whole pin and thing. So, Good Morning, anybody?
I think it's...
Well, it's that connection to Gene Kelly that gets me.
yeah.
But I love that. I think this might be one of my favorite scenes in the whole film. It's definitely my favorite musical number. I just love when she's sitting on the piano bench with him, and you can just see how much fun she's having in particular, you know, just seeing her giggling and laughing beneath the recording is always such a treat.
That was what I had written down, Carly, when I was watching it. I was like, Judy's giggles, because, you know, obviously they're mime lip syncing to the pre-recorded track, but it's like so genuine. At one time, Mickey does something and you can see her just giggling through the track. And I was like, that has to be natural. She's not putting that on.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. You've said that. What I wrote down for that is well, I had two things. I thought it was quite interesting that in the whole film we hear Judy a couple of seconds before we see her. And I feel like that's appropriate for her. You know, you could hear her down the street and go, oh, who's that? And, oh, it's Judy. You know? So yeah, I quite like that we hear her singing before we even see her in the film. But what you said about it surely being a natural thing, I totally agree with that. I was the number one observation I made was like, if you put her acting next to Mickey's, hers is, like you say, it's just total epitome of natural, and she's hardly really being a character. She was just like that. If you watch the Judy Garland show all those years later, she's always giggling and having fun. So, and then compare that with Mickey, and he's kind of that. He's not as timeless, shall we say? He's a little, I don't know. He's a little picture frame of his era. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think they knew each other too well at this point, because their history dates back, you know, by this point 10 years. Because they did the vaudeville circuits together. This is the kind, and it was a contemporary film. They were acting their age within their time frame. So yeah, they're in the. I think it was like one of her big first contemporary film, because obviously at the same time she's coming from this, you know, this Fantasyland film that comes out around the same time. So it makes they're very relatable in that, and you can see which kind of audience it's appealing to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually made a note here, actually, is that I meant to say before, Mickey and Judy's on-screen dynamic has changed at this point. They're now more of a romantic team.
Yeah.
As opposed to Thoroughbreds Don't Cry, where they're arguing all the time. And then Love finds Andy Hardy. She loves him, but he's not interested in her because he's an idiot. So this, even though she's more pining for him, they are a couple and they play the same age. But again, piggybacking off what you just said about Judy being, you know, real in Good Morning, I always feel like that, again, the dynamic in this is very similar to like when they did the Wizard of Oz tour together, when, you know, she'd be more nervous, she'd look at him for a bit of support. It's the bit where she can see where, you know, the publishers is, I think Mr. Randall, his name is. She can see he's not too pleased, and she keeps looking at Mickey for reassurance, and then he's just, you know, gives her a little wink. I feel like that's very, very kind of true to life for their relationship.
Yeah, I always wonder, because like, I mean, we're staying on this Judy being such a natural kind of actor topic, but I'm always so impressed that despite what I've written is despite corny direction, because like I feel like in those kind of 1930s, 1940s films, and then certainly if you go back to the silent films, everything was about this Mickey Rooney type of exaggerated movement and everything, and everyone was a bit of a cartoon. And Judy kind of was able to escape that, and I feel like that's what set her apart from the rest, and that's even a bit of a contributor to why her career lasted so long, because her style, unlike someone like Al Jolson or something, her style didn't go out of fashion ever, you know.
And the other thing I noticed, like similar to that, is when you look at these movies, it's not so much in the 40s, because kind of everyone is starting to calm down and be a bit more natural in front of the camera, you know, as the 40s go on. But these late 1930s ones, do you notice that everybody is almost shouting and they're almost distorting like the microphone? They couldn't cope, because I think they were almost like stage projecting, and it was almost distorting the sound, whereas Judy comes through just right.
Yeah.
She was timeless. She's so modern, and that's why we're still talking about her today. You know, how many podcasts are there out there about Mickey Rooney? None. Like, she transcends each generation because her style was just so modern. And I was actually just I was talking to my mom about this yesterday, when, especially during numbers like God's Country, where you have, you know, a bunch of women in the background, even though Judy is the star, she still stands out in that crowd, even when she's supposed to kind of blend in with them. She looks very different. She has a very modern, very timeless beauty, piggybacking off of our beauty podcast, but that really sets her apart, and just her energy, you know, just the aura that she projects is so timeless and so modern. She's always going to be around.
I can't keep my eyes off her in this film.
She's gorgeous.
His film, I just cannot keep my eyes off her. But it's crazy for someone who sings so loud and have to be taught to tone down the singing, that she acted so sort of natural. She should reel that in, because she was a vaudevillian. Okay, carrying on with the scene in the publishers, we have a little bit of Dorothy Gale creeping in here.
Yeah, the scream.
Can I just jump in for 1/2 second? I noticed another Dorothy moment later on in the movie that I had never copped before, and when we get to it, I will point it out if we haven't noticed it.
I'm curious now.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah. I just watched The Wizard of Oz the night before I rewatched Babes in Arms. So it's funny because I was, you know, the comparing and contrasting the two. But I'm very curious to see what you noticed, Connor.
Okay, I can't wait now.
Does anyone have any comments on the scene in the publishers with Mickey hamming it up and Dorothy Gale coming in?
We love an appearance from Dorothy.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see her again. I love it because I mean, I don't think, you know, the casual viewer would ever think twice about that, just that, you know, a second of sound, because that's all it is. But because I think, especially for us lot, I think the deep root of our Judy fandom comes from The Wizard of Oz, and it comes from Dorothy, the character. So anything that's very akin to that, it's kind of emotive. It kind of makes you go, oh. So I love that. Considering I'm not a huge Wizard of Oz fan, please don't hang me. I like the familiarity of it.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that, like, if you look at Listen Darling and then this, so either end of Oz, she seems to have grown up overnight by the time you get to this. It's like I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if a contributor to that was those strange kind of eyebrows that she had in Listen Darling. little round black lines. But aside from that, that's a really good point you make about the kind of whenever we hear a bit of Dorothy in something, and I wonder if I think there's something, not only is Dorothy like the most famous of Judy's characters in any film, but I think like Sarah said before, it's such a kind of whimsical abstract film compared to something like Babes in Arms or the rest of the films that are like in real rooms and with real humans and whatever. You've got a talking lion in Wizard of Oz. So that's kind of, it's more dreamlike, that one. So we kind of set it apart from the rest.
Yeah. Definitely.
And it's contemporary as well. It establishes its target audience. You know that they were trying to drive them towards a teenage market straight away.
And they dressed Judy quite nicely in this. Her costumes are nice.
I was just going to say that when we was comparing between Listen Darling and this one, because I found all of her costumes in Listen Darling to be very dark. They were very dark. She was very, very a la mode in Babes in Arms. She was very contemporary and very of the time. I always find in Listen Darling, she looks like a bit of a Victorian taxidermy. In some of the, especially some of the darker, high neck kind of stifling dresses that they put on her. But no, she looks very much a young girl of the time, which is what they're trying to appeal to within their audience, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're letting her be herself in this. And I was again taken aback. You can see in a costume, especially the one she wears in this scene. It's a natural figure. You can see she's lost some, but she's still very like shapely. It's a proper like feminine figure. I think she's got it. We're following from the music publishers. We have the scene where Mickey and Judy, or Mickey and Patsy, get off the bus. They go under the tree and discuss the parents, how he's going to, you know, he's going to be a producer, she's going to be a singing star. And then we have the, he says he wishes he could buy us something out of the 100 books, as he says. Which I think actually he should buy us. He should, because she sang the song. So I know he wrote it, but he was the one who actually sang it to the publishers. So he should buy it, give us something.
Yeah.
But instead he gives her the music class pin, and then we get the whole, what do you want me to say? You know what I want you to say. Well, I won't. You won't, but I do. You do what? What you want me to say, and I won't. Very much. So he's pretty much telling me he loves her without telling me he loves her. And then they have that little gentle kiss. And before we go, I just want to say I love Judy, the way Judy looks in this scene. She looks angelic, and when she turns to him, she's got such a perfect profile. I love it. So any comments on this scene?
I've only got one little thing, but I just find it so funny how Judy delivers that line when he goes, I do. She goes, you do what? And I just love how she says it. It's brilliant.
Trying to get him to say it.
Yeah.
I had written down about her eyes. Like, you can really just see the way she's, I don't know, whatever way she's doing, she's looking at him. You can see that she's like willing him to say what she wants him to say. They're just gorgeous in this scene. She's gorgeous, but her eyes in particular shone.
I've got an interesting anecdote about him, because obviously, I don't know how others feel, but because Mickey and Judy were like brother and sister off screen, weren't they? So sometimes a romantic scene with them, sometimes, like when I was a kid and I was watching with my mum, I feel a bit embarrassed watching them have a love scene, and I never understood why, but now I know why. It's because it was like brother and sister, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously they were pros, they were actors, so I'm sure they didn't feel that way and they just got on with it. And obviously off screen, they were quite affectionate with each other anyway, because Judy always was, so it probably wasn't anything unusual to act affectionate. But apparently during this film, when they'd have a delicate scene or they had to say something romantic to each other, he'd whisper to her things like, are you wearing a green garter belt today? And she'd retort back, I hear the doctor says you have the clap. So I think that's how they got round, you know, that kind of relationship.
The awkwardness.
I totally forgot about that.
Carly, I know you've got stuff to say about this scene because I've heard you talk about it.
Well, I mean, the only thing I really have to say about this scene is, again, what you said, Sarah and Connor, just how beautiful she looks. She's just, oh my gosh, especially when she's looking off sort of into the distance and just, you know, leaning her head back against the tree. She just looks so beautiful. And it's her hair is gorgeous, the way she's dressed is gorgeous. And again, like, we're just not used to seeing that at this point, because MGM really had no idea how to dress her, how to do her makeup, how to make it work, but she makes it work herself. And it's beautiful. And I mean, it's interesting. It is very weird seeing them kiss, but again, coming off of Love Finds Andy Hardy, you're like, okay, finally, you know, like,
Yeah.
come on. You don't want to smack him upside the head.
No, I think in my, sorry, Carly, I cut across you.
It's okay. I was just going to say until later you want to smack him across the head.
I think in my head, when I think about Babes in Arms and the other three films, I think my mind has muddled them up with Andy Hardy a bit, because I have it in my head that all of them except Girl Crazy, she's the one pining after him and he not like returning it. But they are, as Sarah said, written as a kind of a couple in this, and it's not as much pining after him as I think it is in my memory.
He is in Strike Up the Bands, he's a bit more off with it.
Yeah.
And in this, that he is meant to be more like business-like. He's not as romantic as her. But I did, when I first, in Babes on Broadway, they're a bit more equal. I always feel like they like each other at the same time. But it's not dead romantic. But when I first saw this, I was taken back when I was 8, that they were a little bit more tender with each other than in Strike Up the Band and Babes on Broadway. Because even things like when she's singing, I mean, we'll get to it where or when he's like rubbing her arm, you know, they hold hands a lot, and he says, you know, when he grabs and says thanks for always saying the right thing, you know, it's clear his character does love her, even though he doesn't, you know, always show it in the best way.
Yeah, total opposite affection level from Thoroughbreds Don't Cry, where there's none at all.
Oh, that's because him and Freddie Bartholomew were the real couple.
Yes.
That podcast was hilarious.
Oh, Christ above.
And I totally agree with that point that you made, Carly, about like her hair in this scene, well, in this whole film, is brilliant. Am I right? I'm sure you lot will know more about this than me, but I'm sure that her hair's lightened a lot since like pre-Oz, where it almost like on camera came across almost black, didn't it? That kind of shiny black look, and now a lot lighter hair. So I don't know, any of you know about that?
Isn't this when she started like dipping it and like using redder tones and lighter tones?
Yeah, that's what I thought, because I'm pretty sure they reddened her hair for the Wizard of Oz, didn't they? So if she's piggybacking coming off of Oz, she would still have that red.
Yeah, because Oz is half her own hair, half like a fall, like a half wig. So yeah, I'm sure her own hair was lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a backstage photograph, I think, from Oz where she's in Oz costume and she's opening birthday gifts, but she's got her real hair, and it's very similar. And it's very similar to the hairstyle that she has in Babes in Arms.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is as well, like on the Mickey Judy tour. You know, the hair's a very similar length. You know, the Wizard of Oz tour. I also like her hair in Babes in Arms. I love Judy's hair a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I sometimes wish she didn't have this up bit. Sometimes I wish she had a like Lily Mars Girl Crazy. Because there are a few photos of this time where she's got it loose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the following scene, we have them getting back to Mickey's house. We have the whole scene where the family tell them they're going back on the road, but the kids can't go. So Mickey decides to audition Judy and Molly to say, look, we can do it. And then we have the following scenes where the parents are like, no, you still can't come with us. Before we discuss it, there's one line in this again that makes me laugh. Is Mickey's going on about the sister, oh, what a voice and natural. And then she talks about the others and she's like, Patsy, Don, so-and-so, all of them swell dancers. Why does he say that when Patsy and Don are both singers?
And she just sold your song.
Yeah.
Can I jump in on this for 1 second? Because this is one of the things I went when I was watching it the other night. It's Douglas MacPhail who says, Mickey, none of us kids can go, and Douglas MacPhail is standing there looking 40.
Yeah.
I did some research. He was like 26. Because I always thought he looked older, because him and Bessie James were married in real life, weren't they?
Yeah.
And he eventually committed suicide in 1944 after his career went to pot and his marriage went to pot.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been married since 1937. Now she was similar age to Judy and Mickey. Now there's all these rumours that they were dating like a few years before when she was being a minor.
Mm-hmm.
an adult, but I know it was a different time back then. But anyway, yeah, they were a couple, but yeah, that cracks me up as well.
Yeah. None of us kids can go, and you're like 17 feet taller than the rest of them. Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, even though he's playing younger, but he doesn't actually look younger. He looks his age.
He looks, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I've got another little kind of vaudeville connection here, is that I think it's right at the start of this scene, when all the parents are all jolly and everything, and they sing two lines from a Sophie Tucker song. I think it's Tomorrow Night at the Dogtown Strutter's Ball, or whatever it is. And she sings that in Broadway Melody, I think, doesn't she? A little excerpt from that. So just a little thing I noticed.
She does. Is that in The Office where she's going through little?
I think it's when she's on those kind of steps towards the end, and she's recounting the olden days in vaudeville. I think it's then. Mm-hmm.
Lovely. So another thing regarding age is how old are these parents? Because even like when Mickey's born, they look about like 50 there.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Yeah.
We know back then they did look older, but they had kids younger. Nowadays people have babies older. But so anyone got any comments on this and the whole opera versus jazz with Judy and Bessie James? Sorry, I will shut up. I just want to say that the opera versus jazz, the introduction, is another example of Judy's perfect facial expressions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carly.
I was just going to say it's a throwback to her and Deanna Durbin.
Yeah.
It's a little revisit to every Sunday. And again, we're treated to a medley of Singing in the Rain songs, because there's a little flash of You Are My Lucky Star in there. I believe this is also where they have Broadway Rhythm, you know, and it's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that written down as well, that kind of the throwback to everybody saying. And I wondered whether, when Judy was filming this one, I wonder if that was in her mind as well, thinking, oh, haven't I come a long way since then?
Here we go again.
Yeah. Back to square one, except with a bit more fame.
Yeah.
I don't like the Betty's opera singing, I have to say.
I don't either.
No.
I'm mute TV.
Yeah, she's too. Remember what I was saying about the microphones? She's literally like overpowering everything. I'm like, all right, Betty, calm down. Just
lower that volume.
Yeah, look, turn it down. You're not on the stage of the Met at the moment.
Yeah.
You already know what I feel like, how I feel about sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were scripted to do something similar in The Wizard of Oz.
Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about this is, again, Mickey hamming it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that written as well, that about him hamming it up. I wrote something like, Mickey plays to an audience, and I kind of connected that to the real life Mickey. I feel like if you see interviews of him in the 80s or whenever, he's always performing to whoever he can find. He's just that sort of person, I suppose.
He can be quite irritating sometimes.
Yeah.
It's sometimes watching. I mean, like throughout this one, I noticed it way more in Babes on Broadway. I was just at the tea. I was like, "Oh, Mickey, sit down. Shut up, please."
I can only handle Mickey Rooney in very small doses. That's why I hardly ever watch, the films that they do together, because only a little bit here and there I can handle.
Yeah, Mickey in moderation.
Yeah.
I do love Mickey, which is weird because I don't generally like hams like that. But again, I think it's a sentimental thing from being a child. I mean, Mum loves Mickey Rooney, even though she doesn't like Gene Kelly because she thinks he's a ham. So, sorry, Carly.
Yeah, Carly's like...
Can I just ask, the scenes before and after Opera versus Jazz, with the parents and all the crowds there? Does anyone else, again, very similar to in other films, even though Judy isn't the focus, does anyone else just watch Judy?
Yeah.
Reacting to everything.
Definitely.
Okay, we'll move on then to the title number, the big production Babes in Arms, led by Douglas MacPhail. Again, let's see, what have I got?
This is how he walks.
Ben, this is what I was going to say. I was going to say something very, like, we'll have to cut this out. Why does Douglas MacPhail walk like he's shit himself?
No.
That's staying in.
That has to stay in.
He looks like Uncle Fester. Oh,
I have a question about this number. Can I hop in really quick?
Yeah.
Okay. At one point, there's a Saint Bernard that's walking near Judy. Is that Judy's Saint
I
Bernard?
was going to ask the same. I was going to ask the same.
It looks like Sergei.
I reckon it was his.
I think it was. It looks a lot like her dog.
One of the things I picked up is, just before the song, and Mickey's going, I'm going to write a show for this town. And he says, he says it's going to be the most up-to-date thing anybody around here has ever seen. And what do? They do an old-fashioned minstrel show.
Yeah.
And they rehearse Antony and Cleopatra, which doesn't even end in the show. That's that later. Where's this up-to-date show that anyone's ever seen?
There's that odd, kind of all the way through the film, there's supposed to be this theme of like the old versus the new and that kind of thing. And then you see the new and it's very similar to the old.
Yeah.
It's like it's not even new. But I love this, even though Judy's not the lead in this. I absolutely love it. Sorry again, guilty pleasure, can't help it. But when I was thinking about a trailer, for this podcast, I really, really, really wanted to use Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. I thought the modern music will kill us, just because this whole scene just reminds me of that. And then I was looking at this number on YouTube, and someone says the other week, "Oh, this gives me Brick in the Wall, Pink Floyd vibes." They're like rebellious. They've got friggin' the damage and everything. They've got fire. They've light and fire. They're creating arson. The damage in the park. What else are they doing?
Yeah.
And I want to know where they're meant to have ended up, like not where the finale is, but just before that, when Douglas MacPhail stands up on the kind of thing, kind of addressing everyone. It looks to me like they're in Woody's DIY, home base, with like sheets of wood. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. There's a lot of like strange wooden structures around.
Yeah, they're in a hardware store or something. I don't know.
And like Sarah said about all the fire everywhere and things, I was afraid to say it, but there's something a bit cultish about that final bit where he's got the torch or whatever he's got. I don't know.
That line kills me as well. Why have we got our arms? I don't get it.
What's the line?
Why have we got our arms?
Why have we got? Yeah.
I was like, why have we got our arms?
Because we're babes in arms.
even though I'm an adult. Anyway, any comments on the number as a whole anyway, without taking the piss? Any comments?
Is this where you said there was a little hint that Judy was doing Oz retakes? Because that's not her on the ladder, is it?
No, it's not her.
Yes,
No.
it's not her.
Because I was watching that and I thought, wait, is that supposed to be her? Because that's not her.
Wow, I never noticed that.
No.
Oh, really?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
So Ben, did you not know that wasn't her? Or did you
No,
know
I did.
it wasn't her?
Oh no, it jumped straight out the first time I ever saw it. I said, "That's not her. Where is she?" But then in the production stills, it's her. So when they photograph it for production stills, it is her. So I knew that was meant to be her, but I'm like, nah, that's not you. Where are you this day? But isn't this the film where she had her car accident?
No,
that
was Love Finds.
Love Finds, yeah.
She was doing retakes on us and stuff. But did you, because I know you're like relatively new to it, Eddie, had you noticed it wasn't Judy?
No, I never spotted that. So this comes as a surprise.
Yeah, I love it.
You'll never unsee it. You'll never unsee it now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch it after this.
Even the way, whoever it is like punching her arm. I'm like, that's not, Judy wouldn't do it like that.
No, she's looking at Mickey the whole time as if to say, am I doing this right? I think, don't quote me on this, I think it might be Karen Marshall.
Is it?
I think so, but I'll double check.
We'll have to ask John. We'll also have to ask John if that was Judy's dog.
Yeah.
If anyone will know if that was Judy's dog, John will have the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, should we move on? Okay, following the title number, we have a brief scene with Mickey and his dad. Then Miss Steele, played by Margaret Hamilton, in the judge's office saying he wants the kids to go to a work school. And then there's a brief scene with Judy, Mickey, baby Rosalie in the drugstore. Quickly, the two scenes without Judy, anything anybody wants to say on them? No?
No.
Okay, so we've got the scene in the drugstore where Judy and Mickey go and have some cokes, and then they're introduced to baby Rosalie, who comes in with Miss Steele's nephew, played by Ram Brooks, who was in Love Finds Andy Hardy. At the party, introduced Betsy Booth.
Oh, that's where I did come from.
Yeah, he's only in it dead brief. He's the one who said, "Yeah, do another number."
Yeah.
Not the one you know, the other one. My point is, when baby Rosalie comes in, and baby Rosalie played by June. How should I pronounce June? Is it Presser?
Presser? I don't know. Freezer.
I always say freezer. She says to Judy, I hear you're going to produce a show. I want to know how she knows this.
Because I think I know, because Judy says at the start of the scene that Mickey organised that big parade to drum up business for the show. So like the whole Babes in Arms song is meant to have been drumming up the business.
Okay. It's just because then when it just makes me laugh the way Patsy says this is Mickey Moran, and I'm thinking if he's behind the show, wouldn't she be aware that it was, unless she already knew Mickey Moran was, but she was waiting for a formal introduction, so sorry, ignore me. So anyway, any comments on this scene, and ignore the rubbish I'm talking about.
It's very cute in the drugstore having their cokes, pretending they're champagne.
Aren't you just mad about champagne?
Yes. I wish we still had drugstores or stores like this. It just seems lovely.
Mm-hmm.
There's a soda fountain in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. It's not a store, but it is a soda fountain. So it's like the old school soda fountains where you'd go and sit up at the bar and you'd order a soda. It's a fun experience.
Isn't it mad that once upon a time, like, you go in, and have your Coke and pick up your second on the other counter?
Yeah, because I'd never heard of that before I started watching the old films, and so it kind of took us off guard. The first time I was like, did they say drugstore?
Yeah.
Yeah. They sold all sorts of things, like, you know, to be like the, you know, like it was like a little, what would you call it? Like a little cafe slash chemist slash.
Mhm.
What did you say, Ben?
Like a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they still have them. I think they still have, like, you know, the kind of similar things across the world. Like in New York, you get a bodega.
Yeah.
Don't you? Which you can get anything to eat there, but at the same time, you can go pick up a six pack of toilet roll.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
It was very much of its time, and it was very. I think it's really cute. I'd love to have that kind of thing back because it's very cute. I'm sorry, I'm absolutely dying.
That's okay.
Anyway, has anyone got anything else to add about this scene? And then obviously Mickey and the other fella have a bit of a fight. So baby Rosalie's like, please don't fight over me.
I hate her. I can't stand her.
In both of them.
Just her voice and the way she talks. As soon as she comes in, I'm just like, oh, I don't like you, Missy.
My opinion on her, the actress, I think she's a hoot in these films. You know, she does the part very well. But my opinion is, I don't get why she's supposed to be the more glamorous one, apart from the fact that she's thinner and she's got blonde hair, because her face is not like pretty like Judy's.
No, it's not, is it?
It's puffier.
It's not. It's puffier. Her features are smaller, like too small. They're like slits and tiny little purse mouth on such a puffy face.
It reminds me of Amy Schumer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, I think she was a friend of theirs, and she was sadly killed in a car crash in 1983.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Oh.
So after that, we have the scene with the judge, where the judge takes Mickey to say, oh, maybe I should take you in the work school. And he's like, no, you don't understand. The one thing in that scene in the judge's office is Mickey's hair. That makes me laugh. It goes when he sat down, it's all neat. And then he stands up and he's got a big floppy fringe across his face. And then we have the outside rehearsals before Mickey's date with baby Rosalie. So the outside rehearsals are where we have Judy's, where they're rehearsing the song Where or When. We have Judy and Mickey seen by the window and Judy's little short version of Where or When. Any comment?
The thing in this scene that made me go, was where in God's name did they pull those 4-year-old children that all appear to be expert musicians? It's so funny.
You are ruining the fantasy.
Louis B. Mayer is coming after me tonight as it goes.
Because now I can't unsee these things. And now I'm just I'm rationalizing it with myself and realizing just how ludicrous it is.
I do this all the time. No, I'm the same, Connor. Love the films, but I sit there going, well, if such and such. The other thing that makes me laugh is Mickey's wearing his dad's suit. Yeah. And okay, his dad's not very tall, but he's about 4 sizes more bigger than Mickey, and the suit's only slightly big on him. Don't you think it would be like
swimming?
You know, but comments on Judy singing Where or When and the scene at the window. Come on, Connor, you mentioned it the other week in our chat.
Oh, I was purposely staying quiet because I feel I'm taking over the whole podcast.
No.
It's gorgeous. I know there was another version of it cut out later on in the movie. I wish we had a longer version of her singing it. Again, I don't like Douglas MacPhail and Betty. What's her name? Betty?
James.
James or James?
James.
James singing it. J-A-Y. Okay. Jane's. I don't like them singing it in the boat, whatever they're supposed to be doing. I much prefer Judy singing it.
Yeah.
And she's stunning in this with her sweater and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or cardigan, as we'd say.
Yeah, I think she looks lovely in this outfit.
Gorgeous.
And then it is quite a tender scene because he's like rubbing her arm and stuff like that. And again, it's like very unusual for a Mickey and Judy film for this point to see that kind of affection. If a little bit like icky, but you know. And then the scene where the kid's like playing out of tune because he's got his sheet music upside down. Yeah. But it took that long to realise he had his sheet music upside down.
Yeah.
I mean, it is funny when the little girl goes, I wish they'd make up their minds. Like, that is funny.
Yeah. I love how he has the whole thing completely upside down, and yet it's only slightly out of tune. It's the only thing he got wrong. Yeah. I find it interesting. I think, was it Sarah that you mentioned the whole dad suit thing?
Yeah.
I feel like, and sorry, this is me going on and on and on about old-fashioned clothes, but it was interesting to me, that whole theme of like the old versus the new. That certainly kind of makes its way into his clothes as well, because as far as 1930s black tie goes, by then, certainly in America, they were starting to have like soft collared shirts where the collar was attached and everything was a bit more relaxed, and everything was much more casual than it used to be, except Mickey and his family, he's still got the starched collar, and he asks Judy, will you hook my collar on? And he's got the kind of the starched shirt front and everything. So everything suggests the kind of the olden days there. So just thought that was interesting.
That's really cool. I never thought of that.
But kind of whether that's a suggestion of the old vaudeville days where everything was kind of starched and it was even kind of old-fashioned looking then, because I think they did that for a bit of humor. They have them in like Victorian outfits and things. But I learned something a couple of months ago about the whole like starched shirt front thing. That became particularly like they used to have this thing in the 1920s where it would be like the bib part of the shirt would just be detachable. It would be its own separate thing. And very quickly, and they were made out of this kind of like solid plastic thing. And very quickly that became kind of a thing to make fun of because it was reserved for kind of traveling actors and vaudevillians and things. So it definitely fits.
That's in a couple of swells, kind of that.
Yeah.
Flippy flappy kind of bit at the front. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carl, have you got anything to add on this scene?
I don't.
Okay, well, before he goes on his date, we have the little scene where, you know, he's telling us to like have them all home, go over this, have them all home by 10 or whatever he's saying. He sounds like his freaking dad, doesn't he? And then she's just like, you know, I hope you have a nice dinner, tell him he looks wonderful. And he says, you know, thanks for always saying the right thing. Again, it's another quite tender moment between, even though he's going for a date with another woman, but he's insisting it's all business, which I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't get the impression that he's like into Baby Rosie like that. It's more a celebrity kind of thing.
I'm the same. Even when she came into the drugstore, he was just kind of sitting there with his Coke.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, you know.
Yeah, he straightens his tie a little bit. But I just kept getting the impression that it was more like he was impressed with the status, even though has been. But like any comments, anyone else? And on Mickey's date with Baby Rosalie, we can whiz through that quite quick as well.
Well, obviously we've got our friend, I don't know how you say it, Barnett Parker. He's the kind of sassy butler character who we've seen in Broadway Melody and everything. Yeah. Who's
I think he was a friend of Dorothy.
I think so.
I just recently saw him again in a movie with Gene Kelly, and he played again the same character. He's always typecast.
Made me laugh with Mickey with the cigar, how sick it makes him.
That is funny. Yeah.
And again, peer pressure. You can just say no, Mickey, you know. Say no to the cigar.
Don't worry.
He's trying to impress and look sophisticated, you know.
Yeah. I think that's another thing about the fact the whole suit doesn't really fit him, because neither does the role that he's trying to kind of play.
Yeah.
He's trying to be sophisticated kind of businessman, and it just doesn't quite fit him. Yeah. I
just love how pale he goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can actually see the green.
If it was in colour.
Yeah.
But when he runs out the door, he can't just run out the door. Normal person. He's got to do it in Mickey Rourke style, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's like Andy Hardy and Love Finds Andy Hardy falling up the stairs.
Yeah.
He's got to.
Even though the screen has almost faded to black by then, he's still giving it what for in the background. Like you said about the cigars, I found that funny that I like how the music kind of starts to go a bit queasy as well.
Yeah.
Thought that was a good decision of theirs.
So after that, we've got the scene where they're rehearsing. We've got him asking Pat to understudy the Cleopatra rehearsals, which I've got something to say about, and Patsy seeing the kiss and running off. But this is one of the scenes where I think Judy looks absolutely gorgeous. Don't know, she seems to have slightly darker eye makeup. I don't know whether anyone's noticed. But what happens in the date is baby Rosalie said she can be the angel for the show. She can provide the money if she's given the lead. Now Judy was supposed to be given the lead, so Mickey has to tell her this. And she's upset, but she is a good sport. And he asks her to help, you know, keep her like quiet, keep her temperament down. So she does go and she kind of supports it until the rehearsals where he has to kiss her. But again, it's not a romantic kiss. It's just in the rehearsals. So any comments on this?
Well, this is where Miss Dorothy Gale appears again.
I was just going to say, it's clicked. It's clicked.
Do you get it?
Yes, I do.
Go on, tell us.
No, you tell it. You tell it way better than me.
When Mickey asks her to understudy, and she says, whoever it was did it, I should be proud, and her voice catches on proud, it is exactly the way she says Aunt Em may be dying in Oz.
Oh, I never got it.
It's exactly the same. You have to see it.
That's so cute.
Anyone got any comments about that scene and Judy's lovely little? I actually think that Mickey's actually quite good in this scene. He's toned it down a little bit. Where not in the Cleopatra scene, in this scene where he's like, I think it's a nice scene between the two of them. Anyone else?
This is where the film dates itself quite a bit, isn't it? Because like when he's doing the Lionel, I am in the right scene, aren't I? The Lionel Barrymore impressions and the Clark Gable impressions.
Yeah,
like that's unless you know either of them, you're going to be like, what is he doing? You know, that's very specific to that time.
Well, I've got something to say about Cleopatra, and then I will shut up. Again, it's, you know, they're supposed to be doing an up-to-date show, but they rehearse Mark Antony and Cleopatra. This does not end up in the show in the end. I don't know why they're rehearsing this. Neither does the dance to Good Morning that they're rehearsing before it. Neither does Where or When, which they've been rehearsing. This show was originally written to Patsy, and again, we later have the comments about her being an ugly duckling. But Cleopatra's very glamorous, so had he written a very glamorous role for Patsy? Or has he suddenly changed it all of a sudden dead quick when he's like got baby Rosalie to do it? And again, you've got Mickey doing his impressions of Clark Gable, Lionel Barrymore. I knew who they were, so I got it. So, and then he has to kiss her, and Judy sees it, and runs off. But before that, when she's doing a whole gymnastics thing,
Oh yeah.
face when she does the applause.
Yeah.
Well, she was trying to be a good sport.
Applause.
I love the setup of it with that sort of her theme. Is that Lady in a Tramp? That's that music every time she appears.
Yeah.
And she's like, hello everybody, and then just starts.
It's quite the way to enter a room.
Isn't it? I'm going to try that tomorrow.
Me too.
Yeah.
Might take a bit of practicing, but
Just a little bit, yeah.
And the look she gives her when she says, "Isn't she a sweet little girl?"
Oh yeah.
I love the look Judy gives her.
Yeah. The constant kind of belittling of Judy's age in the Andy Hardy films, where Mickey's like, doesn't he say something in Love Finds Andy Hardy where he goes, "Oh, she loves children. You can come along."
Yeah.
Don't get her started.
Yeah.
So anyone got any comments apart from what we've said?
It's some foreshadowing to presenting Lily Mars.
Yeah.
This scene where she's got understudy or her role is reduced, you know.
It is. I also want to know where she goes for this water.
Yes.
Oh, because it takes her 17 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was running the tap a long time to make sure it was cold for her. My theory.
Or she was putting the arsenic in it.
I was just gonna say. So following that, Patsy leaves to go see her mum, and we've got the scene at the bus station where Mickey tries to stop her, and then we've got "I Cried for You," and then the scene backstage with the mum. I know you like this scene, something in this scene, don't you, Connor?
What do I like in this scene?
Where she throws the pin back at him.
Is that me? Is it?
Call him an Indian giver.
Oh, the Indian giver. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you laugh.
It does. I had to look it up. I didn't actually even know what she was on about. And then I thought, and then I was thinking about it before I looked it up. I was like, is this something that's on PC as well now? But no, I don't think it is. You know? It reminds me of the clock a little bit, just when she's on the bus and he's running after her. It just gives me a little echo of the clock.
So then on the bus, we have the lovely number "I Cried for You," which anyone who knows me knows I love Judy singing in the lower tones. And she does some lovely slides in this, which I do love. But we also get that horrible, dreaded line again, where she says, "I know I'm no glamour girl like Baby, like her," which does make me laugh when she says "like her." And then she says, "I might be pretty good looking myself when I grow out of this ugly duckling phase." Can someone else just stop me from ranting and take over? Does anyone else on this podcast think that Judy was an ugly duckling here? Hands up. So can someone please explain it to me apart from that's how MGM saw her?
Well, there was something I meant to say earlier, and it does tie in a little bit here. Like, they were obsessed with her size, and obviously that led to so many other things, blah, 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 blah. But when she stands beside Betty James is actually bigger than her. And like, I was like, you know, you left her in the film, but like, why did you have to make Judy be skinny?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
I
does
just don't
anyone
know.
else think does anyone else think that Baby Rosalie's a glamour girl?
No.
Anyone?
She's a little slapper.
I do like Judy's little dig at Mickey Rooney though when it shows the photo and she says, "And you're no Clark Gable yourself."
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. You know, when I was watching that, I thought Sarah's gonna like this bit. Yeah.
Because he wasn't, despite his impersonations, he was not a Clark Gable, despite the fact that in real life he was a womanizer and in the Andy Hardy films. But I just don't get, honestly, I will never understand how she was given that treatment and he wasn't.
Mm.
God, I know it's a male-female thing and it's MGM and they have to have the glamour girls, but it's not like
he wasn't Tyrone Power or any other sort of leading man either.
I think it was because Mickey was already typecast as a ham, so he already fit into a totally separate category, whereas with Judy, they didn't know how to categorize her, so they were trying to fit her into this glamour or not glamour, unglamorous, because she didn't have blonde hair, she wasn't rail thin, so that's my theory anyway. They didn't know how else to categorize her or typecast her. So she fell through the cracks. That's
fascinating because I totally agree with that. I wonder if that's part of the reason that we all love her so much as well, is that she wasn't just one of those kind of templates that they were like, here's an actor and put them in there. She was her own entity, and she kind of,
but she was, they had problems marketing her. They didn't know what to do with her. And as she matured and as she got older, she was able to do more. A lot of the big stars of those days were very one note. And Judy really wasn't. She was very versatile. So we're very lucky that we got to see all different sides of her, because people like Jean Harlow, one note. I know what I'm trying to say. It's a Sunday night and I'm very tired.
No, I know what you mean. And it's again also going back to appearance. We've said it many times, particularly Carly, is that Judy's looks were very unusual. But they've aged well, her looks.
She was very, very stylish as well. And she was, she had very clean, classic look to her. Like, she wasn't, you can tell, like those blonde girls, they are caked. Absolutely caked. I've always found Judy's makeup to be quite light. Except for, for a bit of eye makeup, and she always sported a dark lip. But that's it. She was very natural looking. And I think that was a bit more of a testament to her actual beauty.
Totally.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always so impressed that she was able to kind of break through that thing that they did to everybody back then in MGM, particularly because, obviously we've got Pigskin Parade where the makeup was extremely light or non-existent. But MGM loved to cake it on everyone, and the fact that Judy even stayed such a real person despite all of that, I'm just always astounded.
Yeah.
But even in like her highly glamorized roles, like in presenting Lily Mars, you don't see her as like completely caked on.
No, it's
her
very
her style is still very clean.
So has anyone got any comments on the actual number, I Cry For You?
Oh, that's what we were talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, Judy's performance of it.
It's gorgeous. It's a classic Garland ballad.
Yeah. I got like a couple of connections to different films of hers through this little number. And she does a little kind of determined speech about if I see him at an opera or a ball or whatever. That reminds me of the kind of character that they cast her as in Thoroughbreds Don't Cry, when she does the kind of she's like waltzing around the other actor. I can't remember his name. That's terrible. What's his name?
Ronald Sinclair.
There we go. Ronald Sinclair. And she's kind of doing all of this and all of that. It just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And the other one was that when she's kind of lying down with her head on the pillow, that shot, just something clicked in my brain where I feel like that's quite similar to when she's lying in the bed in Everybody Sing.
Yeah.
Picture that shot.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the same shot, except she suddenly looks a lot older.
It also reminds me of in For Me and My Gal when she's on the bottom bunk
Oh yeah.
after, you know, down Jean Kelly with what's her face. Yeah, it reminds me of that.
Martha
Eggert.
There's a little ringing of Dear Mr. Gable in there too, and she talking to the picture.
Yeah.
Okay then, so we have a scene with Patty and her mum tells you know she shouldn't walk out on a show, and Patty's like Mickey and I, but she kept putting her arms around him and I just couldn't. Not once did baby Rosalie put her arms around Mickey. Where's she getting her arms around?
That's true, yeah.
And then we've got backstage on opening night. Patty returns, baby Rosie leaves, and Patty is back in the show. Again, another question. How long was Patty away? Because I know the bus is only overnight. She gets back to the show on opening night, but when she left, they were only early in rehearsals. So how long was she actually away for? Sorry, Ben. Anyway, so any comments on the scene with her mum and then the backstage on opening night?
Just a little foreshadowing point that I found. I know this podcast loves a bit of foreshadowing to future Judy things, so found one. When she's sitting at the mirror with her mother, and she kind of, Judy's sitting there and she acts like everything's all right at first, and then slowly kind of unravels at the makeup table. Very reminiscent to me of Star is Born.
Oh yes, yes.
Years or so earlier. But I just love those kind of visual parallels where you see the same brilliant actor do a brilliant job twice, very far apart in a way.
Has anyone got any comments on before we get to the show, which we'll discuss in a minute?
You put me through a timeline rabbit hole, Sarah, because now I'm thinking, how long was their rehearsal scheduled? How did it go from auditioning dancers and putting kids in the orchestra to opening night just like that? and now I'm lost. I'm spiraling.
I don't think we're supposed to think of these things.
No.
Then they showed a film they didn't think that someone would be doing a podcast in 2022 dissecting everything.
No.
But no, I love
I think it speaks more about our personal neurosis than it does of MGM story.
I love the scene where she storms back in and she's like, I may be a sap about the men I pay. And gives it to him. And then obviously baby Rosalie's dad comes to take her away, and then he spots Patsy. Again, I love the expression when she's holding the mirror. I love that close up, as if to say, you know, what do you want? And then he says, like, I wrote this show for you. And so any comments before we move on?
The only thing I had down was that I don't quite know whether it's at the end of this scene, the start of the next one, I don't know, but that when they show the shot of the sign with babes in arms and everything, and Mickey Rooney's character's name is listed about 4 times on the sign. Yeah. I just thought that's a very Mickey Rooney thing to do. It's like Mickey Rooney by Mickey Rooney, starring.
It's like Streisand.
Yeah, he's got a child star in there, but his name's everywhere.
Yeah.
I want to know what his middle name is. Michael Z. Moran. Do you think his middle name? Zebra?
Zachary?
Oh, okay. So, Patsy's back in the show. Then we are actually at the show. Okay, so despite what we've seen on rehearsing, the actual show that they put on is an old-fashioned minstrel show. Right, now, we have addressed issues with blackface in both our Mickey Judy and our Everybody Sing podcasts. So we have discussed it in great detail, and also the context of it, then versus now. I know, Connor, you're going to go take us through it again, but Teddy, I just want to ask you, as a 17-year-old, someone of like this generation, because when I was a kid, it was still an accepted thing, and I know you're fond of Al Jolson. What are your opinions? We know it's wrong now, it's racist now, it's completely wrong, it's bad, but in context to the time. You don't have to say anything if you don't want, but I was just curious about your opinion.
No, I'd be happy to. I think certainly in my generation, kind of even a single line of a Stephen Foster minstrel song or anything, alarm bells straight away, and it's write the whole thing off, it's racist, cancel it, whatever. And absolutely, I mean, it completely makes sense to me. I think equally, it ought not to be completely forgotten, because I think there's certainly things that we can learn from it. And I just think the most important, if there's one thing I can say, it's that we just have to remember it in its time and accept that if we see it anywhere outside of its time period, that's I mean, it was wrong then, but nobody thought about it that way then. And I mean, in the case of this film in particular, in vaudeville, people used blackface quite a lot, and minstrel shows went a lot further back than that. But by the 1940s especially and forward, it was kind of reserved for like play within a play, kind of show within a show things in film. And they had actually begun to cast black actors for black parts and whatever, which we love that, and it's progressed ever since. Still a lot of work to do on equality, but I think even in the context of the plot of this film, it was already harkening backwards in time. So as long as we remember that.
We lost Sarah.
So could ramble on forever, but I'll censor myself there.
And actually, well, maybe I should have waited for Sarah to come back, but just when you were saying about like, because being 17 and all of that, and like, Ben, I don't know, were you the same as well? Because like, I saw Babes in Arms years and years and years ago, maybe 20 years ago, and with my mum, and when that came on, like, it never, I don't think I gave it a second thought. I was just, because my mum would have remembered there used to be a TV show called the Black and White Minstrel Show. It was a British show that was shown here. And she remembered that. And it just came on and she was like, oh, a minstrel show. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't.
No, I didn't think twice about it.
No.
But I'm grateful that we're in a bit of a more woke society.
Yeah.
And that we continue to be challenged to look at what we see as acceptable and as light-hearted entertainment, but see the deeper meaning behind it. And whilst I don't condone that anymore, I kind of accept what was in the context of what it was, especially in this one. I remember when, so a few years back, on one of my favourite shows on RuPaul's Drag Race, they did an All-Star season where they did a dedicated an episode to Judy Garland, and it was kind of my dream come true, really. But in the aftermath of that, she was trending on Twitter, but only for Judy Garland did, and the hashtag was Judy Garland did blackface.
Yeah.
And they were trying to lambast her as a racist.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was the big spark of the debate amongst myself and many, many other people.
that actually is kind of,
Remember that.
yeah, and that's kind of tying into what I wanted to say kind of about it, because when we were talking about the podcast, I said I would like address this kind of. The first thing I would say is there's a fantastic TCM short documentary that I came across. It's like 12 minutes. I think we'll put it in the description for when this goes up on YouTube. And it's from 2 years ago, where it kind of summarizes and addresses blackface in movies of this time and the minstrel aspect of it. But like when it comes to Judy, I suppose I think the thing to bear in mind is, as Teddy has said and as Ben has said, it was a product of its time. And then some people say Judy was forced into it. I even saw comments like her mother forced her to do these scenes when she was 13 and this, that, and the other thing. I was like, well, no, like it's true she wouldn't have had a choice in the matter, in that she was contracted to MGM and they said this is what we're doing and she did it. But it's not a reflection of her and her beliefs. It was just a piece of entertainment at that time. And she doesn't deserve, like, she was not a racist. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And there's enough evidence to show that she wasn't. So the hurricane comes along. I'm sorry, Sarah, we've had technical difficulties here, so I'm just taking over to finish it off. So the hurricane comes along and ends the minstrel show. And again, we get a little bit of Oz here with the kind of old tornado. And then I suppose Mickey's father makes the realization that they need to go to school and stop with all this show business. They don't agree. They trot along and go out on their own. And Mickey I suppose, gets under contract with the big producer whose name I can't remember. Somebody tell me if you know it. And he backs their show, and there's a whole scene where they try to get Mickey's dad, I suppose, on the sly involved with the production. All of this, Harry Maddox, thank you, Sarah, leading up to the finale. Any thoughts, comments, anything on the end of the minstrel show up to the finale?
I've got that kind of comparison again between Judy's natural qualities and Mickey's kind of opposite qualities. The bit that I picked out is Mickey's laugh versus Judy's in the why did the chicken cross the street and all of that. And if you notice, Mickey's is just a kind of maniacal burst of laughter, and then Judy's is very musical, isn't it? It's kind of
yes.
It's I don't know, it's like a perfect kind of rhythm, whereas Mickey just kind of goes mad for a second. I was going to say about, it's interesting you brought that up, Judy's kind of, I don't know, what I've written is, if it's tiny, I'll see if I can read it. Though I think it's kind of unfortunate that it was for the kind of very stereotyped and idealized image of the black character, the minstrel, the kind of almost bordering on clown. But other than that, I quite like that in that song in particular, we get to see the kind of more boisterous side of Judy.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't constrained to that ladylike image of the times where you had to sit with your legs crossed and whatever. She was kind of more bawdy in that, and I like that. Also kind of reminded me of Sophie Tucker a bit, the kind of red hot mama.
Any other comments, thoughts, anything from here on in up to the finale?
I don't think so.
Sarah's going to say something, I think.
There was one of my favorite pieces of trivia for this finale is that in God's Country, Mickey was meant to say the word shag. That was proposed.
Yes.
The word shag would be within the song, but they had to remove it because of the British meaning behind it. So they said, there was a letter that said, "Dear Mr. Mayor, we have read the God's Country finale, pages 1 through 4, dated July 3rd, 1939, for proposed production of Babes in Arms. And I'm happy to report the material comes under the requirements of the production code. However, on page 3, Mickey used the word shag. This should be changed, since in England and the British colonies, the word has a very objectionable sexual meaning, which would cause its deletion by numerous political censor boards. You understand, of course, that our final judgment will be based on the finished picture.
That's hilarious.
That's so funny. It's like
Do you have this book?
I don't.
I highly recommend it. I really do. It's very good. It's about the whole of the Freed unit, and so all of the films that came under that as well. So it's very, very Judy heavy.
Sarah, I just wanted to add though that with the minstrels, that some Black performers did perform in minstrel shows as well. And in the TCM documentary, it points out that Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, and even Shirley Temple did it as well. Right, God's Country finale. Go. Thoughts, opinions.
Well, here's Busby Berkeley.
Yeah.
Here's his finale number. One thing I wanted to add is we get a little Artie Shaw.
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
Together with all the lines about not being great at picking the men. Well,
here it is. And again,
like
her hair.
Sorry,
Her
go on.
Her hair. It's
Yes.
so nice. I
And
really
her
do like
dress.
that dress. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
At least they didn't put her in the frills and the flounces and the do the laconga type stuff. It's cute.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they have that really quick close up when all the tiny little children are walking down the stairs and walking forward, and they zoom in on this miserable looking child. He was definitely in. Was he in Life Begins for Andy Hardy? I think I've seen him somewhere.
Sarah knows. I'd have to go back to see.
He looks really familiar, Teddy. I think you might be right. He's in something. He's in some
Debutante.
Yeah. I thought I recognized him.
Yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't know, when you're watching this movie, if you notice the quality reduces in the middle of the finale throughout that whole My Day sketch, that section was trimmed out of the original film. And then that footage was found, I want to say in Japan or somewhere like that, and then put back into it, but it's an inferior like print or whatever. So if anybody's wondering, that's why. I think it was because it was the president and his wife they were doing, so because of the war or something, it was taken out. Oh, okay.
It's cute. It ends everything kind of nicely.
Oh, Sarah first saw Babes in Arms without the My Day number, and you wondered why they were trying to kiss in the middle of the number.
Good point.
I love Judy's like pissed off look when they're about to kiss and the music starts up again. Cut after his death. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I have left on my giant timeline is kind of in agreement with what Carly said about her brilliant hair in this scene again. But I do think that Judy might look her most beautiful in the whole film, or maybe even in this whole like era of kind of 1939, whatever. In that very last shot of the film, I feel like she ends on a very good note in terms of beauty right at the end.
She's gorgeous in the finale, and Sarah's just pointed out that her dress is quite revealing. Not as much as Lakonga, but
Why don't you tell us how you really feel about Lakonga?
I love her number. I love her performance. I hate her dress with a passion.
So do I.
Is, just before we wrap up, and this is maybe a little bit controversial as well, is it cultural appropriation, all the business going on with the like different culture things in the middle of the number?
I wondered that as well, yeah.
Is it okay for that to be there nowadays, or is it not okay for that to be there?
It wouldn't
Probably not.
wouldn't be today. No.
Not the Indians, I'd say anyway. That's no. But like the business of them going Brazilian mocha, teach them to polka, is that bad?
I really don't know anything anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't know what's polka, so what's not.
I have a feeling they'd avoid it nowadays.
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so.
Err on the side of caution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Final thoughts, opinions, everything on Babes in Arms to wrap us up.
Well, just bringing us back to our initial opinions, right? It's a gentle film. It's definitely worth a watch, especially if you are a Mickey, Judy fanatic. If not, it may not be as enjoyable, because without those two, it really, in my opinion, it would fall flat. But it's a very easy watch, and it's the first of their let's put on a show cookie cutter film plot. And it's an overall good film.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy, Ben?
I just feel like you say about that kind of template that the let's put on a show musicals kind of follow. I think it's just one of those, like the rest of them, that if one allows themselves to really invest their soul in these characters, and which obviously we know Judy's very good at doing that for us, then that bit kind of in the middle where we think it's all going to go wrong and then it saves itself, it's just so satisfying, isn't it? It leaves you with that glow of Judy appreciation.
Absolutely.
I think for me, it was the start of Judy Garland as we know Judy Garland, really. We know she did all of the stuff before. We know she's got quite a rich history already. But in terms of like public view and public exposure, this is where she became a household name. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important kind of time in her career trajectory. Also as well, and some of our more casual fans probably don't realise that this was way more successful than The Wizard of Oz when it came out. The Wizard of Oz wasn't an instant success. It took, I think it was the 10th anniversary where it really became successful in its time. But this was more successful. This is what garnered more attention. And so, yes, I think if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I would say it's an okay film. I'd say it's not. It's an inoffensive film. Well, I think I would take that back now.
Tag tweets that haven't aged well.
Yeah, there's a few grey areas. There's a bit of grey matter in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So, yes, it has the, the old entertainment style that we once found charming. It really hasn't aged very well. I'm a bit sour. But, it's a, I would say more now it's a no, I don't even want to say that, actually. I was going to say it's harmless. It's gentle.
Yes.
It's a gentle film.
If you just accept certain things are of the time.
Yeah.
It's a gentle film. I don't think it's a classic by any stretch. I think the cast is clunky as a whole. Some of the supporting, like Douglas and Charles, they're two actors that I just cannot stand. Like, they irk me. I'm sure they were wonderful people, but they always play the same character. It's like him in Little Nelly Kelly as well. I'm just thinking, oh my God, they're both of them. They're both in it.
Yeah.
And I have the same problem with them in that as well. But yeah, it's not the best, but it's not her worst.
Yeah.
It's cute. And I like the little glimpses of Dorothy because we don't really see her again.
Yeah.
Not
We
often.
don't really see her again after that. So I'm glad we got to see a bit of Dorothy in there. That's me. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm sorry, Sarah, for the technical difficulties, but on behalf of the Garland Gab, we would like to thank Teddy and Ben for guesting with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Obviously, we hope you'll both be back at some point again in the future because we love having guests on. Yes.
Love it.
Oh, thank you so much. I've loved this, and well, it's brilliant to find people to delight in the Judy delights with. So it was lovely to meet you, Ben, and I hope it cools down.
You too.
Soon.
Me too.
Fan, although it makes you look very dramatic, so maybe keep it.
I've got a bigger one.
Yes.
It's louder.
Just make it a bit bigger. Yeah.
If I want to make a statement, I use that one.
Yeah.
This is my subtle one.
Yeah. And thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you so much, Carly, Connor, Sarah. I've loved it. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. It's been ours. Thanks
Absolutely.
so much. Teddy.
Yes.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, you're welcome anytime.
Anytime.
Thanks for having me back. I was meant to be back. I won't leave it a year this time.
No, don't.
I won't leave it a year the next time. There's been a couple of occasions where I've been asked to come on that I've just not been able to name, but thank you for continuing to think of me. And I'm still looking forward to the ones where we're going to talk about books.
Yes.
It's coming.
Coming eventually. Eventually. We'll be quietening, well, we won't be quietening down, but I'll be moving soon. So I don't know what way things will be next month, but we will be back on track soon.
Someday.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed all this. There's all the usual YouTubey stuff. And thanks very much for watching. Bye.
Bye.